Hey you guys, it's Peter, and I'm back. Of course I'm back, I'm not going anywhere. Boost. Peekaboo. I see you because I'm YouTube famous now. Available Christmas 2022, the Christmas album, Jingle Jingle Shimmy Shimmy, Dad, Ev, Rock on Gold Dust, Woman, Boost. All right, let's get into this video because I'm ready for a nap, but I felt like I should make this video on the heels of yesterday's video where I talked about Deaf Noodles, Dennis's recent comedy roast that he had, that he called a success. And I made a video about it. I think most drama channels made a video about it. It was a huge topic of conversation all over social media. He was trending because of the conversations, of which he said he was trending because he was so successful, when in fact he was trending because people were really coming for him. He did, though, go on Twitter yesterday and defend himself against the allegations, of which I addressed in my video yesterday. So I wanted to talk about him defending himself. I wanted to read the tweets to you. And then I also want to talk about what happened as an after fact of that. Because when I was in my video yesterday, I said I didn't know if this was real, what was going on, or if it was marketing. And after the show, he announced that he was going to be doing stand-up at this LA comedy club in Las Vegas, and that he was selling tickets. He had put up tweets saying that he was selling tickets through Eventbrite, I believe, and he has since taken those tweets down because apparently the show was canceled. A lot of people are saying that he lied about it. It's very, very interesting. Some people called the club and asked if he was performing, and the club said that they had no idea who he was. So I want to talk about that in a second as well, because he also addressed that on his Twitter. But before I do, I want to address two comments that I got in my video. And the first comment is, hold on a second, somebody said, have no idea who Deaf Noodles is and have no interest, however, did enjoy the lesson Peter decided to teach. So for those of you that do not know who Deaf Noodles is, Deaf Noodles was a drama commentary channel that would sit behind a desk and had very kind of scripted commentary that he did, where he usually combined 2 or 3 stories together in one video. Kind of similar to what Drama Alert or Philip DeFranco does, but he had his own kind of like style to it, and it was actually very enjoyable, and he got a lot of subscribers very quickly as a result of that, and he followed a lot of YouTube drama. He also did pop culture drama, but it was mostly YouTube drama. It's also important to know that one of the people that he covered a lot was Austin McBroom of the Ace Family channel, and even went to the Ace Fest, which Austin McBroom and his wife, Catherine McBroom, hosted, and went to Austin and said, how can I be a scammer like you? Okay, I think that's important when we talk about this salvo showing up to the comedy club and Dennis saying all of this stuff in regards to that, because Dennis himself has actually done very similar things, right? And to all of the supporters of Dennis that are now saying, this is so unfair, that you're doing commentary on Dennis, and blah, 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 whatever, right? I think you have to remember, this is what Dennis has done for a very long time, is he has done commentary on people over and day in and day out and day in, and sometimes 3 days in a row of the same video. So we're not really doing anything different than Dennis has done for the last 2 years. He just decided to switch the script, right? And say that he's now a comedian. So we haven't been doing anything different. I know my place, okay? My place is a drama commentary channel, and I'm talking about what's going on online. That being said, I want to address the next comment that I got, and that comment was, so this guy isn't well. Easy target, I guess, even for the enlightened. So I want to talk about this for a second, because I think it's this idea of him being an easy target. You know, I just passed doing drama 6 years on YouTube, and if you want to go watch that video where I talk about my history of doing drama on YouTube and my experience of being on YouTube, you can, the thumbnail says thank you in it, and that's the video. It's from like 3 days ago. It was from the 1st of September, and I talk a lot about all the drama that I've covered through the years. I have to tell you that in the 6 years that I have been on YouTube, I have never witnessed anything like this. Never in my life, okay? I have never witnessed anything. I witnessed some things close to this, okay? But I have never witnessed just somebody literally giving their career away, okay? And I really don't understand what it's about, except for that there's all of this problematic stuff that happens, and then boom, it's ticket sales, ticket sales, ticket sales, ticket sales for these roasts. Which at this point, it seems to me to be this huge marketing scheme, right? The other thing was that I got a few comments that people were saying, you know, maybe this is like performance art, or maybe this is like this, you know, like research project that Dennis is doing to see like the reaction and the response of his audience, or drama commentary channels. Okay, this is kind of the same commentary that we had with Shane Dawson when Shane Dawson got himself involved with all of the messy drama of Tati Westbrook and Jeffree Star and James Charles. People were like, no, Shane is not this stupid. This is all a research deal. This is all like Shane Dawson. The real video is not about the palette and the sale of the palette, the conspiracy palette. The real video, okay, the real video that Shane is doing is about how people respond to drama. Well, that video never came out because Shane Dawson's not that smart, and that's the truth, right? No offense, but that's just the case. And all of these people wanted to, like, you know, genius these people and make them seem smarter than they are. That is not what is going on here. These are sales tactics, okay? So, Dennis had this roast. The second one was worse than the first. If you want to know what happened in the whole situation with the roast, I talked about that in my video yesterday. There was this guy named Salvo, who is a YouTuber. He flew out there from Ohio. He brought a lot of his supporters with him, and so they kind of filled up the audience. I think at one point in one of these tweets, Dennis says that he had 20 of his people in the audience and Salvo had 30, or vice versa. So it was about half and half. Dennis had half the audience was his and half the audience was Salvo's, which is interesting to me when you talk about Dennis and these ticket sales, that he kept on saying, well, I'm going to add additional tickets. I'm going to add additional tickets. So he really never was sold out, because if this Salvo was buying those tickets up for his supporters, then really Dennis only sold out half of the place, right? So really, he only sold 20 tickets, okay, in reality, which you have a YouTuber that has 700,000 people following him, and he only sold. This is why I don't do meet and greets, y'all, okay? People ask me why you don't do meet and greets, because I know it's going to be me and Susie and Judy Smith, okay, standing on a street corner. I'm not stupid, okay? I know it's not going to be like 100,000 people showing up like Mr. Beast and his burger place today. I'm not doing all that, okay? So I know well enough to not do that. But he has 700,000 people and he can only pack a room with 20, okay? So anyway, so this whole situation happened where Salvo was hyping up the audience because Dennis told him, you know, told anybody, show up and pull up. So this Salvo did, and he wanted to get on stage and roast Dennis, and Dennis never gave him the opportunity to do that. When he finally kind of like gave him the microphone at the end, like the Salvo didn't really have anything to say either. And at one point, Dennis pushed him, and it became this huge altercation, right, which was very dangerous for this club, and I talked all about that yesterday. Okay, so then this Salvo comes out afterwards and says that he's going to press charges and whatever. And that was at the moment when Dennis started posting that he was going to be in Las Vegas the next night, performing at this LA nightclub. It's called LA Nightclub in Las Vegas, okay? And that he was going to, so I'm sitting there watching all of this and I'm thinking, is this all huge marketing? Like, is this just so that he can sell tickets now in Las Vegas for the stand-up comedy? Like, what is really, really going on here? And why are you resorting to all of these antics to sell tickets when your stand-up should speak for itself, right? Like, if you think about any comedian that you would love to see do stand-up, do you love to see them do stand-up because of their antics, their hysterics, and their drama? Or do you like to see them do stand-up because you just think they're absolutely hilarious? Because I know for me, you know, it's like I remember back in the day watching that Queens of Comedy. Like, I could watch that DVD over and over. I had the CD. I used to listen to it, you know, all the time. I could listen to it over and over and over and over. I had it memorized because it was so hilarious. I loved it, right? And so, you know, for Dennis to rely on all of this dramatics and even the theatrics of having a roast and these other comedians and stuff, like, really doesn't say anything about his comedy. And in all honesty, when I saw this yesterday, I was kind of like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Now, I'm just giving you an objective point of view, okay? I was like, this will be interesting. I hope somebody films this stand-up of Dennis in this nightclub in Las Vegas, because I'd really like to... Now, I've seen clips of him doing sets before, right? But I've only seen like 2 or 3 seconds of one. I'd really like to see an entire set of Dennis standing on a stage doing a comic set, right? Like, I think that would be interesting as somebody that claims to be a comic, to see that, you know, and hey, listen, with an open mind. Like, if he's hilarious and I'm laughing, I'll give him complete credit where credit's due. And like I have said in my previous videos, like, I'm not a dream killer, you know? I just think that he's going about this whole thing in a completely disastrous manner, and it's starting to get to the point where it's worrisome, okay? Because I don't really understand what's going on. I've never seen anything like this before. I've never witnessed anything like this before. So those are the 2 things that I wanted to address. So let me first tell you, the first thing that happened was he posted on Twitter and he posted on Instagram this very thirst trap kind of picture, and it's in a hotel room, bathroom, and he's got his, like, basketball shorts pulled down, very low, and people, I mean, there were like several people like on Instagram that were like, I'm unfollowing because of this, I'm unsubscribing, like, this was it for me. I mean, there were a lot of people that were like zaddy, daddy, and all that kind of stuff too, but there were a lot of people that were like, what is going on here, right? Like, you're sending out all these mixed messages, okay? Don't nobody want to see your bush, I'm just saying, okay? I'm sorry, Dennis, but that's just the truth, okay? It's just, anyway, we won't even get into Jeffree Star and all of his sexual antics and how he thinks of himself as a porn star. But anyway, because I'm always like, nobody wants to see you that way, Jeffree. So anyway, and I don't know, maybe people do want to see Dennis that way. I mean, there were a couple people that were like, I've asked you to start an OnlyFans. Hey, maybe that's your next endeavor, okay? Comedy OnlyFans. I don't know, okay? Is there something over there to laugh at on your... I'm just saying, I don't know. So anyway, so he started going off on Twitter last night. Now, I will tell you what is interesting is, as of late last night, he hasn't really been active on social media at all, and I have no clue why that is. I hope he's okay. So anyway, but I wanted to give the opportunity in a video, so for those of you that don't have Twitter or follow this stuff out there, to know what Dennis said about these things. I think that's only fair in the whole discussion of all of this, okay? So he announces the 3rd roast battles, September 9th at 8 p.m. Hollywood, California. History was made, and it will repeat itself. Pull up or shut up. So he says again, pull up or shut up, and then says tickets go on sale tomorrow, okay? So then somebody says, they're talking about this whole thing with Salvo, and this person says, no, I was there. Salvo got pushed because he comes to the show and completely harasses the crowd and interrupts the show. He also encouraged his fans to fight Deaf Noodles fans in the crowd. The dude would not chill. Now, okay, I want to address this whole violent situation with what happened and Deaf Noodles coming out from the door and pushing Salvo and all this kind of stuff. I do not think that that was appropriate whatsoever. I do not think it was appropriate for Deaf Noodles to put his hands on anybody. I don't think it was appropriate for anybody to throw drinks at anybody, for whatever reason, okay? I don't like violence on... I personally am so anti-violence, I do not like it, okay? I've been like in one fight in my entire life, and it was in 7th grade, and it was because I made some smart-ass comment towards this kid, which I'm sure it's hard to believe. And he looked at me on the bus, and he goes, you know I have to fight you now, right? And I go, I guess. And I was so scared getting off the bus, and he like hit me, and when he did, he hit my braces, and he like, his hand was all bloody, and he goes, you cut my hand! And he ran off towards home. That was like the one and only fight I've ever been in, okay? And I don't want to be in any more fights. I don't like violence. I don't think it's the way that you solve anything. I don't think it's any kind of way to show, and I just don't think it proves anything, okay? What I don't understand about this, especially like I said yesterday, on the heels of him educating people on having a nightclub. My husband and I have many friends that own nightclubs, okay? And that manage nightclubs and promote events and things like that. The way this whole situation went down is so amateurish and so unprofessional and so dangerous. You know, this whole thing started before the show. If they knew and they assessed that this Salvo was harassing the crowd, was hyping the crowd up, okay? And people are saying, well, if Dennis had done that, if Dennis had kicked him out before the show, then people would have said you weren't willing to give him an opportunity to roast him and whatever. What Dennis could have done, okay, is Dennis could have brought one of the security guards on stage, none of the comics, because it was always him with the comics, and the comics were really hyping it up as well. So if you watch the show, yes, Salvo is hyping up the audience, but so is Dennis and the comedians. They're going back at each other. I mean, it's this back and forth chaos and mayhem, right? If Dennis had gotten on stage with one of the security guards and said, listen, this is how it's going to go. I asked for people to pull up and show up. So if Salvo wants to come on stage and y'all want to shut your mouths while we roast each other, we're going to allow that to happen. But if this is going to continue to be this way, then the only alternative that we have for the safety of the club is to ask Salvo and any of his supporters to leave. If you want to stay and you want to be part of the show, hey, that's fine. But be aware that there is a show going on here and be cool with that. And this is something that at any comedy club, at any concert, at any venue would be handled that way, you know? And at what point do you not care so much about your reputation and you care more about the safety of the people that have come to your show? I mean, there were a lot of people there in that club that, I mean, people don't know. Like, people were saying, well, somebody could have brought weapons. There was a lot that was going on that this could have totally become this disruptive thing that was completely out of control, right? It could have been handled in a completely different way. The security guards could have gone up to Salvo before the show. They could have shown it on camera and said, listen, okay, we're being cool with you. Like, either settle down or come on stage and show what you have to show when we give you that opportunity, or we're going to have to ask you to leave, right? And I'm sorry, Dennis saying that if he had done that people would say to him, well, you just didn't give Salvo the opportunity. Well, you're getting screwed for what you did anyway. You're getting screwed for pushing the man. So that would have been a more professional, safe way to handle the whole situation. So anyway, so he responds to this and he says the truth, okay, about what happened. So then he says on here, I got to get my reading glasses on for these because there's a lot, you guys. So somebody says, why would you assault someone who literally did not even remotely put their hands on you? It's one thing to have them escorted out, but yikes. And he says, 1, he was banging on windows and trying to destroy property. 2, he harassed and assaulted my staff and patrons outside the venue. 3, he tried to break into green room. 4, he was on stage inciting and preventing the show from starting. Don't do this and you won't get pushed off stage. Now, this is the thing, on the heels of what I just said. Then what Dennis should have done was, with his security guard standing on stage, said, listen, we have asked Salvo, because this all happened. He's posting this because he pushed him before the show started, okay? Or partly at the beginning of the show starting. So all of that must have happened before the show started. So if that's the case, then Dennis and the security guard should have got on stage and said, I'm going to tell you what happened. You know, he was banging on windows. He was trying to get into the green room. He was just, all of this is inappropriate, okay? I just put up a video today on my channel about safety issues. He didn't follow the safety issues. We had to ask him to leave the club. If you want to stay, you can stay. If you're one of his supporters, feel free to leave, okay? But I'm sorry, that's what we're doing for the safety of the club. So then he goes on and he says, I have hours of footage, DMs, and screenshots. If this were ever to go to court, I have plenty of evidence of incitement. The internet is conveniently showing one part of his story to villainize me. I've spoken to my lawyers in the LAPD. If he wants to go to court, I'm ready. Because Salvo said that he's going to press charges. So then he shows the video, or he shows a picture of the situation where he pushes them. He says, MF tries to incite a riot in my comedy club. Haters. But he got pushed. These MFers are pathetic. Salvo, man titties, cake, sue me. Let's make all your and your friends' behavior public record. The people who gathered all their evidence of coordinating the incitement is what he says. Okay. Then somebody says, you mean how you emptied all of Salvo's fans, silently pulled yours in, and began booing him the second you gave him the mic after putting him on your ad? Pull up or shut up? Okay, so then he responds and says, this never happened. If you watch the stream, you see the exact moment Salvo Mantitti's cake was taken out by security. His 20 friends left. Well, in the clip, Salvo says, you're kicking my supporters out, or my friends. He says that before he is kicked out. It's only after his friends are kicked out that then security comes up and removes Salvo, so that's actually not true. And And he says, Dennis says, I had 30 of my people there. They rightfully heckled him when he said his corny monologue. He got called corny too. I got called corny too. Aww. Okay. I got heckled for 90 minutes. Dude couldn't take 3. Well, I mean, you wanted to do, this is the one thing that is interesting to me is like with the whole defensiveness of all of this. And listen, like I said, like I don't want to be a dream killer, but Dennis, I mean, like I've given you really good advice in my past 3 videos that I've done about you. I've said hosted at a comedy club. You know, several people said that they think he reached out to comedy clubs and they wouldn't work with him. You know, I said reach out to a comedy club, see if you could host a real battle there with like real comedians that actually have a name for themselves. You know, have them each do like a 20 to 30 minute set and then, you know, roast each other. You know, I said, try to find a comedian that will mentor you. Try to find a comedy club that will mentor you. You know, I tried to give some really supportive advice. But the thing is, and let's not forget this, that Def Noodles brought this on himself, okay? Like, I mean, I think that's the thing that's important to remember is that these were choices that Def Noodles made. He's not 20-year-old kid, okay? He's a 37-year-old grown man that has much life experience. He chose to make this club. He chose to brag about this club. He chose to brag about how this was going to be the best comedy roast in the entire world, and after the first one failed, instead of saying, hey, you know what, we've got a lot of growing pains. We have a lot to learn from the first battle because it didn't go really the way that I wanted it to go, and there were some things that happened, but the next one's going to be much better, I promise you, you know, and we'll continue to learn along the way. He came out and said this one was a success and we're trending. And he's, the arrogance, ego, and pride, right, is what is fueling all of this. And, you know, there's a fine line for me between, you know, feeling bad for him and being like, dude, like, seriously, like, take a step back and look at this, right? Like, you asked for this. I mean, it could have been a lot worse, and maybe it wasn't salvo. It could have been, what if 5 comedians showed up? Or what if 5 YouTubers showed up and said, we're here. We showed up and pulled up, right? We are here, and we're ready to roast you. What would he have done then? What if it were 10? What if it were 20? What if 20 of those audience members were YouTubers that said they were pulling up and showing up? Because he asked for that. That was what he wanted, right? So, I don't know. So then he goes on to say, hold on a second. No, somebody says no one called the cops. Security didn't step in. No one looked the live stream you uploaded, saw any of this. Store the show from happening when you had multiple technical difficulties and a huge gap in the beginning of people waiting. And he said security was doing their best considering they were outnumbered by 4 times. Due to the swatting threats leading up to the event, I've been coordinating with the senior lead officer of the LAPD to ensure the safety of my patrons. They offered extra policing in the area. But what I don't understand is you want to talk about this whole security team that you have. Why were they outnumbered 4 times? Why didn't you have the appropriate security, especially if you were threatened for all kinds of things? I don't know. Maybe he couldn't afford it, but like that seems like that's something that's pretty important to me. Somebody said, I really think you saying they were outnumbered by 1 person who came literally alone is the best joke you done. Told. Also, if you were coordinating with the LAPD, then why still couldn't you reach out to them just to simply remove him from the property and show them the evidence? And he responded and said he did not come alone. He had his own security, which was true. Salvo said in the limo afterwards, he pointed to one of his what do you call it, the people in the car, and he said, this is my security guard. I don't think for 1 second that this Salvo is innocent in all of this. I just want you to know. I mean, I do think that Salvo went there to get this whole thing hyped up. I mean, he has like literally on YouTube like 6,000 subscribers or something. I mean, I think that the whole thing is that Salvo went there, yes, because Def Noodles said suit up or show up. Or pull up and show up. But I think he also went there to hype it up to the point where something would happen. I mean, it's very obvious when you're watching it. But the thing is that Dennis never had to engage in that. Dennis had the security. Dennis could have just stood back and said, I'm not going to engage in this. Like, I'm not going to participate in this with you, right? And, you know, and said he dealt with the heckling for 90 minutes. Close the showdown. Close the showdown. Said the show is, we aren't able to do it. Or the other thing is, you know, it's like, if you, what was it just yesterday I was looking at? Like The Weeknd, he lost his voice, like, performing in LA, I think yesterday, and he came out and like halfway through the show, or 20 minutes into the show, said, I'm going to have to, like, I feel really bad about this, but like, I'm going to have to cancel the show. Dennis could have come out and said, you guys, listen, I asked for somebody to pull up and show up, but we aren't even able to do the roast at this point because you guys are being so obnoxious and screaming so much. If you want to give me the opportunity to allow Salvo to come up here and we can have an actual roast, I will do that, which I don't even think Dennis was willing to do that. Like, that's the thing. Dennis, I don't think he really thought anybody would show up to do this. So it was this total crap show, right? But he, you know, like, he could have done this, handled it in a completely different way. So, okay, so he says in there, he also bought 20 of his friends. He was not alone, which is true. He had a lot of people with him. And so then there was a comment on here about apparently Salvo made a joke about George Floyd. I did not hear that. I will say that from everybody in the audience, the comedians, there were so many inappropriate jokes in this thing that, I mean, you really couldn't tell who was saying them. I did not specifically hear that joke. Obviously, if that joke was made, it's so inappropriate, not funny, and I mean, it's just, I don't know, like, this whole thing is, what has happened to the morality of people? I mean, like, is this the kind of humor that we have to fall on? Can you not, like, body shame and people shame? And I don't know, it's just like the whole thing, kind of like watching it, the first and the second one, really, to be honest with you, made me so sad because the humor wasn't funny. It was really just like tearing people down, and not for like subtle shade, you know, like, not like yesterday I did these awards. I mean, it's not like that, you know, it's not like funny, ha-ha shade. You know, like me and my friends, like, you want to talk about a roast. I mean, we shade each other all the time. You know what I mean? It's like, there's YouTubers that we shade each other with. You know, it's like, and that's allowed, and that's funny and ha-ha. But when you're literally looking at somebody and you're like coming for their weight, or you're talking about, I mean, just inappropriate jokes about world issues, I mean, that are so like just ignorant and have no humor base to them whatsoever, and you want to call that humor and then say we were a success and that we're gonna, no, you need some boundaries in place, or to find some new comedians, because your comedians are not funny and you have no control over that, right? So anyway, so he goes on, and then somebody says, hold on a second, somebody said, then he addresses it again, and then he puts this shirt up about, I am the most controversial comedian in the world. Whitney, okay, then he says something. To all the morons in the replies, I didn't make this art, someone else did, because he was taking all these people's shirts. Then someone says, moron, can you please explain how you just McBroomed everybody selling tickets to a show that never existed in Vegas tonight? And he said they canceled the whole show because they got over 300 calls from incels around the world clenching their buttholes about me performing. Don't worry though, I'll be back. And then somebody said, I don't think anyone did this. He's just trying to find excuses on why he got caught doing something. And he responded and said, bro, people literally live stream themselves calling the venue. WTF are you talking about? Okay, so this is really important because this is the part where Dennis got caught lying, and I really do think that he got caught lying, okay? So there were several people that called the comedy club, LA Comedy Club or whatever in Las Vegas, and asked if Dennis was performing, okay? And they said, and you can tell on the conversation, I heard the live stream on Twitter, it's all over Twitter, you can tell the person on the other end is like, has no clue what they're talking about, right? And he's like, no, we've gotten a couple calls about this, not 300, he says a couple calls about this, and we have really no idea who this person is. And so, and the guy's like, so he's not booked for your show tonight? And he's like, no, we sometimes do like a 5-minute act, you know, we'll like 5-minute amateur act, maybe that's what he's thinking about, but no, we don't have anybody by that name booked, okay? Well, Dennis was selling tickets to the show, so I don't know if he was selling tickets to the show to get people to go there, to like maybe hopefully pump up the fact that he would then get this 5-minute spot. I don't know. But there are a lot of people that are like, I can't believe that people called the show or called the event. Here's the deal. Dennis was trying to get money out of people to go see him at an event that did not exist. Okay, the battery died, but I was just about to give an example of how I have done something like that as well. You know, a lot of people are saying that they shouldn't have called the event venue and they shouldn't have done all this kind of stuff. Well, you're talking about people that are investing money, and he is marketing this show that he's doing that he's not doing, right? You're also talking about somebody that went to Ace Fest to call Austin McBroom a scammer, based on Ace Fest, based on the things that he promised people for their ticket worth that they were not getting. So these are the same things that Dennis has accused other people of in the past that he is now allegedly doing himself. I don't know what truth there is to it yet. I think more will come out down the road about this comedy show. But you know, the thing is, like, I have been somebody that has called places like this in the past. My first year doing videos, Amy Slayton, I don't know how many of you guys know her from the 1,000-Pound Sister fame. Back in the day, before she had her show and her sister had her own channel and all that kind of stuff, her sister was very, very sick, and she said she needed an extra large coffin for her sister, and she was raising money for that. And then her sister got out of the hospital, and Amy didn't give the money back to anybody, right? And so I called funeral home on, I called the funeral home in her town on a video to ask if a larger coffin, what the price range of that is in comparison to a regular coffin, because I wanted to know where people's money had gone, okay? Because I think that that is unfair when audience members and viewers that are a big part of your following, and you're using their following, okay? And you're using their love for you and their support for you to make money, and there's no truth to that. Like, I think that needs to be called out. The same way that Def Noodles has been calling out that with Austin McBroom, okay? Now, Amy Slayton has since taken full responsibility for that. She has paid those people back. She got in a live stream and was confronted by like 4 different people. She took full responsibility for it. She paid everybody back every cent that she got, and now has her own TV show and has lost a bunch of weight and is happily married and is doing very well. So congratulations to Amy. But, you know, I think that it is an issue. I think it's a huge issue when you're saying, and he was in Las Vegas, I think. He showed himself in a hotel room, and he showed the window and all that kind of stuff. But it's not, because you can tell from the call, when somebody calls there, they're like, no, like, we don't know who this person is, right? So then what is the truth? Did he think he was just going to show up at this comedy club and do this amateur night and have 20 of his people in his audience? Well, if that's the case, is that really any different than Salvo? Like, I mean, this is the thing. It's like, when it applies to you, it's okay. But when it applies to somebody else, it's not okay. So you're constantly switching and changing the rules, and then you're wanting to educate people, like in the video that you did the other day on the safety of a nightclub. You know, which I'm sure we'll get another video in a few days here from Def Noodles talking about the safety of running a roast, or what to do and what not to do in running a roast. Which, what I really think that he should do, honestly, is I think he needs to take a month off and just relax. I mean, Def Noodles has been doing this for long enough now that I have to believe he has quite a bit of money saved, that he could just go and take a month and, I don't know, go somewhere and live on the beach and, I don't know, just relax and lay out and regroup and take some time to himself. I really think he needs to do that. Like, it's very concerning, you know? It's like, it's very worrisome what is going on. And then I think if he really wants to come back and he really wants to be a comedian, he's got to really see, like, there cannot be 100,000 people that are wrong about this. If all of these people are saying these things, and no, they're not all haters. Like, I've said this for years, right? Like, maybe if so many people are saying something to you, it's not because they're all haters. Maybe it's because there's some truth to what they're saying. You know, in my career of being on YouTube for over 6 years, there have been things that have been said to me over and over and over and over again by people, right? The easiest solution to that is to look at that and say, they're just haters. They don't like me. They don't care about me. Is there some truth to that? Sure. Do I have haters? Absolutely. Are there going to be people that don't like what I have to say or do? 100%. But when enough people start saying something to you, maybe take a look at it. I know I have had to in the past, and I've had to take a look at things that, you know, that I've said or whatever, and say like, okay, well, maybe I need to change this up, or maybe I need to do this differently, or maybe I need to be, you know, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You know, and if enough people care about you and are saying, I was a fan of yours, I used to watch you every day, they're not even necessarily saying they want the old content back, which most of them are, but what they're saying is they care enough about you that they don't like to see what's going on right now. So take that in and say, okay, I have the financial resources that if I really want to be this comedian and I really want to be respected for my craft, What do I need to do? I'm going to go to 3 comedians, and I'm going to find 3 comedians that I really respect, and I'm going to ask them, what did you do to get really talented in your craft? You practiced it? You did a lot of stand-up? Okay. What else did you do? You studied a lot of other comedians? Okay. You wrote jokes? You wrote for TV shows? Okay. What else did you do? You know, you worked in nightclubs night after night after night after night, right? Okay, so maybe he goes and he mentors, like I said, underneath another comedian. But to just fast track it right to the top and say, I'm going to own my own comedy show and I'm going to disrespect everybody and whatever, like it really at this point, it's very sad. It really is. I mean, he's literally throwing everything that he has away, you know, and although, like I say, that he's doing this to himself, there is a part of it to me that is kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to see anybody do this to themselves, you know? So anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.